They launched 6 F-22s the moment her jet appeared on radar. No transponder, no clearance, just a lone aircraft diving straight toward the carrier. Orders were clear. Surround, lock, prepare to fire. But before they could speak again, her voice cut through the comms like a blade, calm, unshaken, and followed by a call sign no one had used in over a decade. And the moment they heard it, even the lead pilot took his finger off the trigger. Welcome to the Human Stories. Before we continue, tell us in the comments what part of the world are you watching from. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit the subscribe button. They picked her up on radar at 0644 hours, slicing through the mist east of Wake Island. No transponder, no IFFF, just a ghost signature charging heading toward the Pacific Task Group at cruising altitude. Altitude rising fast, like someone had launched a Hornet from nowhere and pointed it straight at the heart of the fleet. The initial signal was flagged as a radar glitch. Thermal inversion off the water, maybe a lost bird drifting off route. But within minutes, the trace firmed up, velocity locked, no deviation, no contact, no squawk. It was flying hot, clean, and disturbingly intentional directly towards CVN-80, the USS Valhalla, the Navy's new flagship, hosting the most classified joint operations exercise in over a decade. In Combat Direction Center 1, deep beneath the armored island tower of the Valhalla, voices dropped, eyes narrowed. The air was crisp with caffeine and tension. Commander Aldrich, lead tactical officer for the simulation, leaned over the plot table already marking intercept vectors as the CIC team confirmed. Single aircraft FA-18 Hornet, low visibility paint, no coalition markings, no wingman, no beacon, just raw thrust and perfect trajectory. Launch intercept, he said flatly. 6 Raptors, weapons live, clearance hold. Within 3 minutes, the F-22s screamed from the flat top of the USS Brunswick, catapulted skyward under afterburner, forming a 6-point net across the eastern vector like a closing jaw. Altitude 32,000 feet Mach 1.5. Every radar cross-section tuned on the Rogue Hornet. A $4 billion in guided steel trained on a single jet that hadn't even clicked its comms. From the CIC, Aldrich watched the formation form. Any ID yet? Negative, came the reply. No call sign, no log, no alerts from coalition air assets. We've pinged global databases. Nobody's claiming it. He turned to the admiral behind him. Sir, recommend active challenge. Do it up in the air. Echo lead call sign Widow punched the encryption key and spoke with absolute calm. Unidentified Hornet, this is Echo 1. You are operating inside restricted naval airspace. Turn away immediately and identify yourself. Respond or you will be fired upon. Static, then silence. Then a voice. Calm, unrushed, female, cold enough to crack glass. This is Valkyrie. Every Raptor in the formation stalled for a beat. Even Widow blinked. His hand eased off the trigger toggle. Inside the Valhalla's CIC, the comms console lit up. Pattern match confirmed. Voice print returning as redacted. Origin classified, but one word glowed in the archival feed. Valkyrie. Aldrich's brow furrowed. Say again. The voice returned slower this time, like it didn't care if it was believed. This is Valkyrie. Carrier Valhalla. Confirm vector and prep my lane. You've got 30 seconds before I make my own. In the silence that followed, one of the youngest officers on deck leaned toward his screen. Valkyrie like the movie, but the admiral behind him wasn't smiling. Number, not the movie. That name was locked down 12 years ago. The plot screens blinked, then froze. Background systems began cross-referencing past incidents, and one by one, sealed entries surfaced. Project Nomad, Operation Blackshade, Exercise Silent Crow, all redacted, all flagged under Tier 1 blackout. Only one element repeated across them. Call sign, Valkyrie, status, DNR, do not re-engage. On the deck, the air boss who'd served 30 years whispered it like a curse. She's still alive. Back in the sky, Widow's HUD flickered as the Hornet came into visual range. It wasn't just flying. It was dancing. Angles sharp, trim locked. The kind of precision you don't fake. No decals, no call sign painted. Just a gray killbird moving like it had something to prove, hugging the edge of sonic without breaking it. Then, just before the Raptors could lock hard, the Hornet banked low, skimmed under the formation, and dropped like a predator straight toward the Valhalla's deck. "Sir, she's diving." Aldrich's voice snapped. "Weapons hold." But she said, "Valkyrie, you fire on that and we might lose more than reputation." Down below, the flight crew on the Valhalla scattered as the FA-18 blasted past the island tower at just over 250 knots. Gear up, nose level. No warning, no salute, just perfect discipline and a hint of thunder. The deck quaked, cameras turned, and for the first time in years, the crew on CVN-80 stood completely still. Not from protocol, but from something colder. Recognition. The Hornet rose again and entered a wide, slow orbit overhead. Her voice came one last time over secure line. "Valhalla, I never got my landing the last time. This time I'm not asking." The Hornet circled once, not aggressively, not hurried, but like she owned the sky, as if her presence didn't require justification. Below, the deck crew of the USS Valhalla stood half shielding their faces from the jet wash, watching in a mix of awe and disbelief. This wasn't part of any drill. There had been no flight plan, no coordination, no clearance. Yet no one moved to stop her. No missiles, no scramble response, no deck lockdown. Just silence except for the dull tremor of the carrier's hull still resonating from the low pass. Inside CIC, the air was tighter now. Nobody sat. Even Admiral Connolly had stepped closer to the main display. Aldrich hovered near the secure console, staring at Valkyrie's orbit vector. She hadn't broken formation. She hadn't buzzed the tower. She had simply circled once as if waiting. "She wants to land," Connolly said softly, but with no uncertainty. Aldrich nodded. "If she was hostile, we'd already be floating debris or buried under it." Another voice spoke up from the corner. "Lieutenant Commander Henrik, Cyber Systems. We have no registry on her bird, no tail number, no affiliation." She said Valhalla, the Admiral murmured. She knew where to come. "Or who would be here," Aldrich replied. Pause followed. One of those pauses not born from indecision, but from memory. The kind of hesitation forged when ghosts speak your name. "Clear her for Deck 27, Connolly ordered. "And someone get me a full manifest of everyone who's ever worn that call sign." "Aye, sir." Down in Ready 5, just below the flight deck. Tension shifted into action. Flight marshals reset the catapults. Arresting gear crews stood by. Deck officers barked sharp instructions. And still no one said the name aloud. Valkyrie. It clung to the steel like a scent. Like old blood scrubbed clean but never quite gone. The Hornet's second pass was lower, aligned. Her gear dropped precisely 3 seconds before touchdown zone. There was no radio call, just precision. And when her tires kissed the deck, the cable caught hard, halting her in less than 3 seconds flat. No one moved, no one ran, not even the safety crew. Only the jet hissed, bleeding steam and silence. Then the canopy opened. The pilot who climbed out did not match the ghost stories. She wasn't the spectral figure some had imagined, nor the prototype warrior of a decade-old classified myth. She was flesh and blood, flight suit zipped to the collar, helmet under her arm, and eyes, those piercing green eyes, scanning the deck like she could still see everyone's records by how they stood. Hair pulled back tight. No rank visible, no patch, only the unmistakable outline of a trident etched subtly on the neck of her undershirt, half exposed beneath the collar. A flight deck chief stepped forward, unsure whether to salute or stand down. She gave him a nod that didn't invite dialogue, then walked straight past everyone. She moved like she remembered every inch of the carrier, like it hadn't changed even if she had. Every bulkhead she passed, every stairwell, every corridor seemed to echo under her boots. Below deck, the rumors moved faster than she did. The Valkyrie was aboard, not a Valkyrie. The capital V. The one who'd disappeared during Operation Blackshade. The one who'd supposedly been buried in a sealed report after saving the entire 7th Fleet from a miscalculated drone strike. The one who refused medals, refused press, refused to die when everyone expected her to. They'd said she went dark, vanished. Some said she defected. Some said she was dead. Some whispered that she worked off-grid for someone no one could name. Now she was walking through the corridors of the Navy's most secure carrier, as if the passage of time had never happened. Valkyrie reached the hatch to Briefing Room Delta. No guards, no hesitation. She stepped in and the room fell silent. 12 officers were already inside. Naval Intelligence, Special Operations, Aviation Command. They had been debriefing the morning's exercise. Now their attention snapped to the figure in the doorway. She didn't speak, just stood. Let them look. Let the weight of memory or myth settle over them. Then she walked to the center table, reached into her flight bag, and placed a single object down. A weathered patch. CAL Trident. Real metal scratched at the edges. Unmistakable. No one breathed. Finally, Connolly stepped forward. You picked quite a time to come back. Her voice was the same as overcom's. Controlled, cold, precise. I didn't come back. I was never gone. The Admiral stared. What the hell does that mean? It means you're not cleared to know why I'm here. Only that I need 30 minutes of flight deck time, access to encrypted airspace, and eyes off my bird until I'm airborne again. You're giving orders now. She leaned forward, hands braced on the table. I didn't come here for nostalgia, sir, and I didn't ask permission. Another officer leaned in. Commander Roderick, Black Ops Liaison. What's in the Hornet? Classified by who? She stared at him. Higher than you. The temperature in the room dropped 5 degrees. Roderick sat back. Connolly exhaled slowly. And if we say no, she looked directly at him. Then you'll have to explain to the Pentagon why you grounded the only pilot still cleared to finish the Crow Protocol. The silence after that wasn't confusion. It was fear. Crow Protocol was terminated, someone muttered. No, she replied. It was paused. The Admiral looked like he'd just swallowed a blade. You're saying the threat's real? Valkyrie didn't answer. She simply picked up the trident again, tucked it back into her flight suit pocket, and started walking toward the hatch. Clear my path or follow my wake. She left without waiting for the answer. The room stayed silent long after the door sealed. Outside, somewhere in the endless blue above, the F-22s still circled wide, waiting, listening, and wondering why no one had given them the order to strike. They wouldn't get it because even the Admiral, for all his stars, knew the truth now. You don't fire on a storm you don't understand. And Valkyrie was the storm. By the time the Valhalla's upper deck realigned for clearance, Valkyrie was already back in the cockpit. No one helped her prep the Hornet. No one dared. A mechanic had approached briefly, stopped mid-step, eyes locking on the subtle trident patch now visible just beneath her left shoulder. He backed off without a word. She strapped in, flicked each switch with mechanical rhythm, the kind you don't forget, even after vanishing for 11 years. The twin engines spun to life. The blast of heat and metal behind her was the only response she allowed to the silence around. Inside CIC, the Admiral stood behind the radar station, watching the icon blink from standby to active. No one had yet dared question what Crow Protocol meant. Not aloud, but whispers were moving through the ship faster than fire. Aldrich stood by the encrypted link terminal, trying to unlock the old archives, the ones buried under 10 layers of black above black clearance. He couldn't, not even with the Admiral's override. She's operating above Fleet Command, he muttered. This isn't just Black Ops. This is wet work deep state vetoed level clearance. Connolly didn't respond. He was staring at the map at the trajectory Valkyrie's Hornet had uploaded without asking permission before sealing her comms again. Not toward the coast, not toward any hostile nation, but upward into the deep Pacific corridor, right into no man's airspace. Off-grid, the Bermuda of the West, the zone where satellites stutter, where comms mysteriously fail, where even GPS gets dizzy. Back on deck, her jet rolled forward. She didn't request catapult assist. She didn't need it. She pushed the throttle with a precision that told everyone she had flown dirtier missions on shorter decks. The Hornet roared forward and split the sea air in a single upward curve, vanishing into sky. Below, no one clapped. No one cheered. Just eyes lifted in silence. Some were afraid. Some weren't sure what they felt. The only certainty was this. She hadn't come back for nostalgia, for redemption, or for recognition. She had come back to finish something. Mid-flight, the Hornet tilted slightly, as if aligning with a vector invisible to radar. Inside her HUD, a blinking triangle reactivated. Operator Crow active. A secondary interface appeared beneath the throttle readout. Authorized agent, Valkyrie. Her eyes didn't flinch. She reached under the seat, pulled a case no wider than her forearm, unlatched it, and revealed a device shaped like a targeting node, except sleeker, older, worn at the edges. It pulsed once, recognizing her fingerprint. A new code streamed across the screen. Target acquisition. Inbound threat vector signature undeclared stealth platform non-NATO design. Altitude 43,000 feet speed MCH 1.8 ETA 7 minutes. She exhaled once through her nose, flipped a red switch hidden beneath the comms board, and said nothing. The Hornet tilted again, now an intercept path. Back aboard the Valhalla, the encrypted alert system fired silently. CIC officers scrambled to triangulate. The stealth object didn't match any known aircraft. Not Chinese, not Russian. Its heat signature was faint, artificially masked. It was flying blind toward U.S. carrier space with no transponder and no IFFF. Worse, it hadn't been detected until now. What is that? Henrik whispered. No answer. Then Aldrich finally cracked one line of the Crow protocol archive. Just one. The screen flickered. One line decrypted. If reactivated, do not interfere. Agent Valkyrie operates outside Joint Command. Objective overrides strategic protocols. The room froze. In the sky, Valkyrie locked radar on the object, but the object blinked back. Not with a missile, with a data stream. Her screen flooded with static. Not mechanical, not electronic warfare. Something more primal. The Hornet began to shake. Vibrations without origin. HUD flicker. Radar collapse. She blinked hard. Reached for manual control. Another screen lit up. Target acknowledges. Identity. Engagement override pending. She hit a hard bank right, rolling into a stall dive maneuver, bringing herself behind the object now visible ahead. Matte black, curved in angles not found on modern aircraft. Not shaped like a drone. Not shaped like anything human. The air felt wrong. The silence louder. Then the object tilted, banking toward her. Threat clear. She didn't hesitate. One flip. Missile arm hot. But just as her finger hovered, the lock disappeared. Gone. Her screen went black. Her palms hissed. Then, in a whisper not from her system, not from any channel she recognized, a voice slipped through. We remember you, Valkyrie. She jolted. That voice, it wasn't digital. It was familiar, old, impossible. She dove, broke pattern, reset altitude, looped twice in defensive spiral. The object didn't follow. It hovered, then vanished. Not faded, vanished. No sound, no trace. Gone. She hovered midair, panting, hands clenched. A long moment passed. Then her screens rebooted. New code appeared. Intercept successful. Protocol complete. Recording. Sealed. Proceed to drop point echo. She stared at the line. It wasn't victory. It wasn't confirmation. It was only a statement. The way you might confirm a transaction at the end of a war. Then a second message appeared. Only for her. He's alive. Her breath caught. She leaned back in her seat, closed her eyes. Her voice whispered so faintly that not even the jet's cockpit mic caught it. Impossible. And below, aboard the USS Valhalla, no one knew what had just happened beyond the radar blip that had come too close, the jet that had gone too far, and the silence that returned heavier than before. The Hornet touched down harder than it should have, skimming the flight deck of the USS Valhalla with a force that rattled more than metal. The moment the tail hook caught the arresting cable, silence swept across the control tower. No cheers, no chatter, just eyes locked on a jet that wasn't supposed to be in the sky, let alone on this deck. Valkyrie's never needed fanfare. She brought her own gravity. She stepped down slowly, one boot after the other, like she was feeling the weight of the ship beneath her feet. The helmet stayed on, no salute, no gesture. She simply walked past the stunned deck crew, past the Exos sprinting to intercept her, and straight into the hangar bay, her path wide open, as if every regulation and layer of authority had just disintegrated at the sound of her call sign. The elevator lowered her into the belly of the ship. As the platform descended, the air thickened. Officers whispered, Marines straightened. Even the chief of the boat turned to face her, but said nothing. The name stitched across her shoulder, Valkyrie, seemed to absorb light. At Deck 4, the elevator stopped. She turned, walked down the corridor, and paused at a sealed bulkhead. SIF access only. It required triple authentication, but she didn't even touch the keypad. The lock disengaged before her hand reached it. A low hiss. The door slid open. Inside, a single figure waited in the cold glow of monitors. Rear Admiral Jonathan Wren. He hadn't aged well. Years of black operations and gray decisions had carved trenches into his face, but his voice, when he finally spoke, held both awe and guilt. They told me you were dead. Her helmet hissed as she removed it. Green eyes scanning the room but not resting on him. You told them I was. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was radioactive. Wren stepped forward. Do you know what you just activated? I didn't activate anything, she replied flatly. It found me. The Admiral swallowed hard and turned toward the central screen. Static cleared. A feed emerged. Satellite thermal. In the center, a shape underwater, massive, slow-moving, and warm. Too slow to be mechanical, too alive to be geological. The tracking code stamped on it glowed in red. Project Siren. Wren exhaled. We lost it 12 years ago in the Mariana Trench. Disappeared. Everyone on the retrieval op gone. No debris. Just silence until your jet hit that air corridor. She stepped forward, eyes narrowing on the screen. It scanned me biometrically. Not my bird. Me. Wren's hand trembled slightly as he tapped a command. Another screen lit up. Archive footage. A cockpit recording. Grainy but clear. A young man in a flight helmet laughing, banking a jet through a canyon at impossible speed. Wren said softly, he died that day. Or, we thought until Project Siren transmitted this. The image froze. In the corner of the cockpit, blurred and distant, stood the reflection of another pilot. A woman, same eyes, same jawline. Valkyrie didn't blink. He's alive. The Admiral hesitated. Or what found him still thinks he is. She turned sharply. Where? Wren stiffened. That thing is moving again. Slowly. Toward the fleet. Toward us. It's not following navigation. It's following you. The lights flickered. Deep in the ship. A low tremor echoed upward. Something ancient. Something heavy. An alert buzzed. One of the fleet destroyers 5 miles out lost comms. Then another. Screens went dark. Only the map feed remained. One red dot moving steadily toward the center of the formation. Not fast, but certain. Valkyrie spoke low. Then we move first. Wren turned. We? There's no we. You're not even cleared to, but she was already walking past the monitors through the sealed door toward the catapults. He called out behind her, this isn't revenge, Valkyrie. Whatever this is, it doesn't want war. She stopped just long enough to say without turning, it wants me. The flight deck was near empty now, cleared by emergency command. Valkyrie moved with the same calm she always had. A ghost from a war no one had officially fought. Re-entering a world that thought it had closed her chapter. She climbed into the Hornet again, rearming nothing, carrying no missiles, no payload, just memory, just herself. As the canopy closed over her, a faint vibration pulsed in the ocean below. Below the carrier, below the fleet, lights flickered again, and in the sky above, the clouds parted, not naturally pulled apart. The F-22 scrambled without orders. Their flight leads uncertain, confused. Orders were frozen. The satellite uplinks were down. But still, they moved because they were afraid not to. From the tower, Wren watched as Valkyrie's jet rolled forward. She hadn't even asked for clearance, and no one denied her. Catapult 1 locked, hissed, and then with a roar, she was airborne, alone again. She didn't climb, she dove straight toward the sea. At 200 feet above the waterline, she engaged a maneuver even the telemetry struggled to interpret. A roll-flat inversion that placed her aircraft belly first toward the ocean, matching its movement exactly. The object, whatever it was now visible from the deck, a rising dome just below the surface, glowing faintly with bioluminescent veins, almost breathing. It broke the water gently as if surfacing not by force, but out of recognition. And then her comms clicked. A voice. No radio, no encryption, no frequency. Just a voice inside her helmet inside her. You shouldn't have come. She gripped the stick tighter, not answering. Her eyes flicked to the side panel. All systems green. No threats locked. No radar warning. But every instinct screamed the opposite. The voice again. Your name was erased to protect you from us. And then on her HUD a call sign appeared. One she hadn't seen in 13 years. Razor 6. She inhaled sharply. Her hand moved to the side of her helmet, but there was no channel open. This wasn't a transmission. It was him. Where are you? She said softly. And then she saw it. The dome opened not like a machine, but like a wound healing in reverse. Inside, something emerged. Humanoid, a pilot's suit, torn, scorched, helmet intact, moving slowly. Do not engage, said the voice again. He is not yours anymore. But Valkyrie was already breaking formation, descending toward the figure. The F-22s above received the signal seconds later. Red alert, multiple hostiles emerging from the ocean. No IFFF, no designations. But they didn't fire because on every display one phrase overrode all commands. Protect Valkyrie. Even the machines remembered. Below, Valkyrie's jet hovered impossibly low. Salt spray streaked the fuselage. She opened the canopy midair, wind howling into her flight deck. As the figure approached the wingtip, one hand outstretched, she whispered, Razor. The helmet turned toward her, slow, deliberate, and then the eyes behind the visor lit. Not human light, not natural, but familiar. He spoke without lips. You came back. And in that moment, everything stopped. The ocean calmed. The radar went dark and 6 F-22 Raptors circled silently overhead, not in formation, but in vigil. The sea had stilled like a great breath being held. The clouds no longer moved and the wind fell away entirely. On the radar, silence. No hostile signatures, no system alerts, just static. The USS Valhalla floated quietly in the Pacific, surrounded by destroyers now drifting at idle, their crews pressed against windows, decks, and towers, staring in breathless silence at the impossible sight playing out before them. Valkyrie remained in her cockpit, the canopy open, her flight suit soaked in sea mist, hair plastered against her face, lips trembling not from fear, but memory. The figure on her wing hadn't moved in minutes. It stood there, half human, half lost to something no one fully understood. The helmet remained in place. The suit was torn, scorched, aged. Yet it stood upright, still watching her. Razor 6, her brother. He had vanished on a Black Op mission over the Philippine Trench 13 years earlier. Officially, he was declared Kia. Unofficially, he was never found. The last voice transmission classified and buried was to her. Don't come looking. Not for this. But she had. For years. And when the Navy tried to ground her, silence her, erase her file from the books, she disappeared too. Until today. Until the Trident. Below, on the command deck, Rear Admiral Wren stood frozen. No one moved. No one spoke. His hand hovered above the comms button, but he didn't press it. Whatever was unfolding above them had moved beyond protocol, beyond war games, beyond logic. It was no longer about threat containment or rules of engagement. It was something older. Recognition. Valkyrie finally stood in her cockpit, carefully balancing herself against the wind and stepped onto the wing. Her boots clanged against the metal. The jet swayed slightly. She looked at him, at what her brother had become or what had become of him, but her voice was steady. What did they do to you? The figure didn't speak, not audibly, but she felt it like a vibration under her skin. I saw the light and followed it. I thought it was a signal. It wasn't. She stepped closer. They were a meter apart now. The ocean below them shimmered strangely as if responding to their presence. Are you still in there? His head tilted slightly. Not yes, not no. Something else. Something in between. I remember you. That's what's left. The memory of a sister who refused orders, who crossed a line no one dared to approach. Valkyrie reached out her hand slowly, cautiously, fingertips brushing the edge of his sleeve. Come back. There was a sound then, not from him, not from the ship, from the sea. A low-frequency pulse that vibrated deep in the bones. The ocean lit up beneath them, not in flame, but in lines, shapes, symbols, a language. From the carrier tower, Wren watched with wide eyes. His command team stood frozen, their screens overtaken by the same pulses, the same symbols, mirrored across satellites, radios, sonar buoys. The signal was rewriting the sky. One officer whispered, "It's not a weapon. It's a key." Back on the wing, Razor 6 moved for the first time. He stepped forward, took her hand in his gloved fingers, and for the briefest moment, she felt warmth. Memory. Laughter in a hangar. Her hand resting on his shoulder as they posed in front of the jet they once flew together. The last time she saw him as her brother. The warmth faded, and then he spoke aloud. It's not coming for you. It's coming through you. The sky changed color, not darkened, shifted. A pale, brilliant silver overtook the blue, and in it, streaks of gold arced like magnetic lines. The F-22s above pulled into a perfect circle around her jet. Not defense. Not offense. Ceremony. And then Valkyrie heard it. A hum from the sea. Low, growing, familiar, almost like a song. From the ship below, sailors stepped onto the decks. No one ordered them. They just moved. Pilots still in gear. Officers with clipped radios. Even Ren emerged from the tower, hand in hand, the anthem. But it wasn't being played over speakers. It was resonating from the metal, from the air itself, like the ship was remembering something. Someone. Razor 6 turned his head slightly. The gate is open. You can stay here and remain a legend. Or follow me and find the truth. But you can't do both. Valkyrie didn't speak. She looked toward the horizon, toward the destroyers, toward the stars, and then back at the face behind the helmet that once flew beside her, that once bled beside her. She stepped off the wing. The water didn't take her. It lifted. A beam of soft energy, pale and weightless, surrounded her and Razor 6. Together they rose. Not in fire. Not in propulsion. But in surrender. The F-22s peeled off one by one like hawks giving space to something greater. From the deck of the USS Valhalla, hundreds of sailors and officers watched in silent formation as the two disappeared into the light. Not vanished. Not dissolved. But transitioned. The anthem faded. The sky returned to blue. The ocean calmed. And on the radar screens across the fleet, one new call sign remained, pulsing slowly in green. Valkyrie Plus. Back in Washington, a file reappeared in the Pentagon's deepest archives. Project Siren. Status active. And a single line was added beneath it. She followed him home. If this story moved you, share it with someone who believes in loyalty, sacrifice, and the truths buried beneath silence. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what did you feel when Valkyrie stepped off the wing? And if you believe stories like hers deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button. We'll be here bringing back the voices that never should have gone quiet.